This story begins with Takashi, Rei, and Hisashi having to survive against a horde of strange zombie-like residents on their school rooftop. While struggling to defend themselves, Rei is nearly caught by the horde, but Hisashi steps in, saving Rei from danger. As they approach the top platform, Takashi starts thinking hard. How could he suddenly be trapped in a world resembling The Walking Dead? We're shown a time before this chaos began, when Takashi was alone, reminiscing about his love for Rei. Back then, Rei had once promised to marry him, but everything changed. As they grew older, Rei's heart shifted, and she left him. Takashi's life took a drastic turn when a pink-haired girl named Takagi suddenly appeared and scolded him for frequently skipping class. Although Takashi tried to remain as cool as possible, like Spike Spiegel, Takagi kept reprimanding him. As Takashi tried to absorb this new life full of danger, he saw a strange man running and crashing hard into the main gate. At the same time, Kyoko and some of her loyal Twitch fans arrived, with one of them trying to act boldly to catch her attention. Unfortunately, his attempt ended tragically when the man bit his arm, causing him to die on the spot, leaving everyone in fear. As they approached him, the man suddenly got up and bit Kyoko with surprising enthusiasm, making Takashi panic and rush back to his classroom. Once he got there, Takashi immediately looked for Rei and asked her to come with him. Takashi informed Hisashi that some people had died at the school's main gate. Rei, acting tough, tried to ignore Takashi's warning, only to receive a hard slap that brought her back to reality. Now Takashi, Rei, and Hisashi had to prepare to face a real nightmare, the zombie apocalypse. Thinking quickly, Takashi broke a broom to make a makeshift weapon. Meanwhile, Rei tried to call her father, who was a police officer, for help. However, her face turned pale when she found the line was busy, a bad sign that the situation outside the school might be even worse than they imagined. Just then, an emergency announcement came over the school speakers, warning everyone of the danger and asking them to evacuate. But suddenly, the announcer screamed in terror before the voice cut off, leaving the school in a state of panic. The announcer's scream added to the tension, making the usually relaxed students as scared as panicked NPCs. Chalk fell to the floor, and the atmosphere in the school became chaotic. Our trio, Takashi, Rei, and Hisashi, tried to find their way to the administration building to avoid the crowds. On the way, they encountered their first zombie. Though hesitant at first, Rei finally unleashed her martial arts skills, kicking the zombie with full force. Unfortunately, even after being stabbed right in the heart, the zombie rose again and turned its attack on Rei, leaving her cornered. Hisashi tried to help, but was bitten on his arm, forcing Rei to call for Takashi's help, saying, "This is our only chance to survive." Takashi, driven by survival instincts, struck the zombie's head with the stick until it shattered. Then, the three of them continued toward the rooftop. From there, they were shocked to see the city outside looking like something out of Alice in Borderland, with military helicopters flying low, signaling how serious the situation had become. The school was no longer the usual place for learning. It was filled with students either dead or wandering aimlessly as zombies. Takashi, Rei, and Hisashi realized that the only way to deal with these creatures was by destroying their heads. But before they could catch their breath, classmates they once knew approached with staggering steps, pale faces, as if they wanted to copy homework. Or perhaps something far scarier. After fending off waves of zombies, Takashi and his team managed to take shelter on the upper floor. They quickly blocked the stairs to prevent zombies below from climbing up. At that point, Hisashi started feeling severe pain from the bite he'd received earlier. With a pale face, Hisashi asked Takashi to end his suffering before he turned into one of them. Takashi, initially unable to go through with it, held back. But seeing Hisashi's pain worsen, his heart broke. When Hisashi finally lost his life and rose as a zombie, Takashi was forced to swing his weapon and end his friend's suffering. Elsewhere in the school, Takagi was running down the hall with a chubby bookworm by her side. Takagi was focused on survival, while the bookworm was more concerned with finding a teacher to report the chaos. However, Takagi managed to make him realize they needed to fight together instead of relying on others. Back on the rooftop, Takashi and Rei were still mourning the loss of Hisashi, though this was only the beginning of all the chaos. Trying to cope with their grief, they decided to try calling Rei's father using Takashi's phone. This time, the call connected, but Rei's voice barely came through due to poor reception. Her father managed only to tell them that the city was in major panic before the call was cut off, leaving Rei even more anxious. In the hallway, Hirano asked Takagi if they should contact the police for help. Takagi just shook her head, saying that if Hirano had ever watched a zombie movie, he'd know the police wouldn't be much help in a situation like this. After explaining they'd have to fight on their own, they continued walking, with Takagi sighing in slight annoyance at having to be with this thick-headed guy. Meanwhile, Kazu was in another hallway, facing a zombie and managing to take it down with a pole. Beside him, Shizuka was calmly gathering medical supplies and assessing the situation. When Kazu urged her to leave, Shizuka insisted on waiting to gather more healing items first. Suddenly, a zombie crashed through the window and bit Kazu, leaving Shizuka frozen in disbelief. At that critical moment, a girl with a sword appeared, swiftly taking out all the nearby zombies. She introduced herself as Siko and praised Kazu for his efforts to protect Shizuka. Gently, Siko informed Kazu of what would happen to him now that he had been bitten and offered to end his suffering right then and there. Not wanting to turn into a zombie, Kazu asked Siko to finish it. In the tool room, Takagi and Hirano were inspecting equipment they could use to survive. They eventually found a nail gun that could serve as a ranged weapon, giving them a bit of hope amid this terrifying situation. As zombies started knocking on the door like kids asking for candy on Halloween, Hirano quickly improvised, creating an emergency nail gun to hold them back. As his plan worked, Hirano transformed from the bullied bookworm into a confident hero. Meanwhile, Takashi and Rei were working together, using a high-pressure water pump to knock down zombies. After sharing intense moments and exchanging looks of mutual understanding, they moved forward together, taking down zombies one by one as if they were born for this. When the situation was somewhat under control, they decided to go downstairs, and Takashi suggested they head to his house, hoping to find other survivors there. Rei considered calling to check if her family was home, but Takashi reminded her that her father was out of town, and her mother was teaching at an elementary school. Though he tried to stay calm, Takashi couldn't hide his worry, especially after witnessing the state of their school. On the other side, Takagi tried a unique approach by throwing a wet tissue at a zombie and realized that they didn't respond to touch. It seemed that all of the zombies' senses were dead, except for their hearing, which still reacted to sound. As Takagi and Hirano were surrounded by zombies, Shizuka and Siko rushed toward the teacher's lounge to look for car keys. Along the way, Siko noticed that Shizuka's tight outfit wasn't ideal for running, giving everyone an unavoidable fan service moment. Back downstairs, Hirano was starting to run out of nails for his weapon, and as the zombies closed in, Takagi shouted loudly to draw their attention. Quickly, Takagi tried throwing a trophy at a zombie, but it didn't work. Finally, Takagi pulled out a drill and with full courage drilled it into the zombie's head. At just the right moment, Takashi and Siko showed up to help, and together they all prepared to face the next threat, feeling braver and more solid as a team. After defeating the zombies, Rei and Shizuka immediately went to check on Takagi, who still looked shaken. Siko introduced herself to Takashi, but Takagi felt frustrated seeing them act normal after the horror they had just survived. Unable to hold back, Takagi yelled, her voice echoing through the school hall, reminding everyone that the situation was far from over, and might get even worse. They then gathered in front of the TV to watch a news report showing the destruction across the city. The report ended dramatically as the reporter was attacked by zombies, helplessly becoming a victim on camera. Takashi, frustrated by the lack of clear information from the news channel, muttered about the importance of withheld news. However, Takagi assured him it might be done on purpose to prevent mass panic. The news also revealed that the outbreak had spread across much of North America, with White House personnel even moved to an aircraft carrier. Speculation arose that the government might consider extreme actions, like a nuclear strike. Realizing the scale of this global outbreak, the group could only stand in silence. Just this morning, everything had felt normal. Rei, still holding on to the hope that things would get better soon, voiced her naive optimism, but Takagi scolded her, reminding them about past outbreaks that nearly brought humanity to the brink of extinction. When they wondered how previous outbreaks had ended, Shizuka explained that, eventually, outbreaks stop when there are no more humans left to spread the disease. Shizuka added that these zombies might start decaying in about 20 days, but Takagi was skeptical. She thought that concept might not apply here, as these zombies were technically still alive. Finally, Shizuka suggested they work together and rescue more survivors to increase their chances of survival. With a unanimous decision, they realized that the quickest way out was through the main door. Their small group marched toward the hall, taking out a few zombies along the way, and arrived at the inner gate. Siko and Takagi, the geniuses of the group, warned everyone to avoid unnecessary fights and try not to make any noise. Soon after, they spotted another group of survivors surrounded by zombies, and without hesitation, they moved to rescue them. After the rescue mission was complete, Takashi decided to test the hypothesis that zombies might not be able to see them. Although Rei asked him not to act recklessly, Takashi fearlessly stood among the horde of zombies. One of the zombies passed right by without noticing him, and Takashi threw his shoe at the wall to draw their attention, allowing the others to walk quietly through the gate. Unfortunately, one of the survivors with them made a sound and drew the zombies' attention, causing them to be surrounded again. Although this situation posed a new obstacle, they didn't give up and managed to move forward. However, one of the students they had saved earlier got trapped and was attacked by zombies in the process. Eventually, they found an old-looking SUV. While Shizuka tried to figure out how to start the vehicle, they saw Professor Shido from Class 3A approaching with his students, looking out of breath and terrified. As Takashi stepped out to help, Rei urged him to leave the man behind, but Takashi ignored her. Takashi helped some people move forward until Shido came across someone who had fallen right in front of him. With a sneer, Shido whispered, "Only the strong survive," and without hesitation, Shido stepped over the man, pressing his foot on the person's face as he walked calmly toward the SUV. With the remaining courage, Shizuka stepped on the gas and plowed through the crowd of zombies, successfully getting them out of the school grounds. Once they were safe on the road, Shido, with his know-it-all attitude, immediately suggested choosing a leader for their survival. Rei could only sigh and tell Takashi that one day he'd regret saving Shido. As they passed through the ruined city, some of the survivors, who seemed only to add to the burden, began arguing over the route to take. The tension in the SUV grew, and Shizuka, trying to focus on driving, finally begged them to be quiet. Everyone fell silent upon seeing Shizuka's serious expression. However, the tension rose again when one of them suddenly pointed at Takashi for no apparent reason, which eventually led Rei to step in and calm the situation. Shido seized this moment to once again push the idea of the importance of leadership, even suggesting himself as the leader, reasoning that he was a teacher. With grand promises like a politician, Shido managed to gather support from a few easily influenced people, eventually declaring himself their leader. Rei, fed up with the situation, immediately chose to get out of the SUV. Takashi followed her, urging her to stay calm at least until they reached the city. As Rei scolded Takashi for saving Shido despite her warnings, suddenly, a bus filled with zombies sped up and crashed into the side of the SUV. As the dust began to settle, they realized the tunnel ahead was now blocked by the bus, and from the shadows, another horde of burning zombies emerged. Takashi and Rei were separated from the group, but they managed to inform Siko that they would meet at the Easter police station at 7 p.m. While the SUV took a different route, Takashi and Rei exited the collapsed tunnel, only to be attacked by a zombie riding a motorcycle. In that tense situation, Rei managed to save Takashi by knocking down the zombie rider, and the two quickly hurried on their way to the Easter police station. Since Takashi couldn't walk much farther, they decided to take the zombie's still-functioning motorcycle to reach their destination faster. Meanwhile, Siko and her group were stuck in traffic as police began firing at the approaching zombies. Some of the girls who were picky started to panic at the sound of gunfire, and Shido quickly took advantage of this opportunity to assert his leadership once again. On the other side, Takashi and Rei continued riding through the abandoned city. They eventually arrived at Takashi's neighborhood and found it eerily silent, as if it had been completely deserted. When they spotted a parked police car, they immediately checked it, and discovered that the driver was already dead. After searching inside the car, they managed to find a fully loaded revolver and some extra bullets that could come in handy later. They then headed to a gas station, but unfortunately, Takashi didn't have any money for fuel. When Rei scolded him for spending his cash on drinks earlier, Takashi just grumbled, sarcastically remarking that he wasn't as rich as her now-deceased boyfriend. He went into the shop to search for cash and, inside, smashed a table with the baseball bat he was carrying. Takashi heard a scream from outside and quickly rushed back. It turned out that Rei was being held hostage by a man who looked like a thug, smugly patting her cheek. As the man got bolder, he demanded that Takashi drop his weapon and fill up his gas tank immediately. Using his wits, Takashi instead threw his bat to the ground, drawing the attention of nearby zombies toward them. While filling the gas, Takashi pleaded with the man to let them go, saying they needed to meet their parents soon. The thug laughed, saying their parents were probably already gone, and ordered Takashi to move his butt faster. Waiting for the right moment, Takashi finally managed to shoot the man in the shoulder, giving Rei a chance to break free. Though Rei wanted to take revenge, Takashi held her back, reminding her that the area was now overrun with zombies. As they left, the man eventually became zombie food. In Tokyo, two pilots were preparing for takeoff, but the runway was swarming with zombies. Not far from there, a man directed a hunter to the target location and gave her the green light to start shooting. With incredible precision, the woman cleared all the zombies off the runway, allowing the plane to be ready for takeoff. The man wondered aloud how all these people managed to reach the airport, considering there was only one route to the place, and that was by boat. The woman, wiping sweat from her forehead, explained that essential personnel and technicians for the airport had been brought there. Although some of them were infected, thanks to their teamwork, the situation at the airport was under control. As the plane began to take off, the woman decided to head into the city, planning to visit a friend. In the SUV, Shido was once again giving a long lecture on how to handle this situation and keep all the survivors safe. Meanwhile, Hirano, who had been sleeping soundly, was woken up by Takagi, who informed him they were still stuck in traffic. At that moment, Takagi saw the plane flying overhead and guessed that many people would try to move to areas with lower populations and better access to ammunition to survive against the zombies. Hirano mentioned Okinawa as a good place, while Takagi suggested Hokkaido and Kyushu as strong options too. However, Takagi realized that those places might already have strict defenses and wouldn't let anyone in easily. While Takagi and Hirano discussed their chances of survival, Shido, on the other hand, was busy flirting with the girls on the bus. When Takagi grumbled about their situation, Takagi muttered, "If only Takashi were here, things would be easier." Hirano secretly suspected there was a crush on Takashi. Meanwhile, Takashi and Rei faced chaos on the road, where rival groups were sparking small riots. Takashi seemed to transform into a ghostly rider, driving through flaming streets in epic style. As they were chased by people, Takashi casually explained to Rei that this was a world where rules and laws no longer existed. People were now revealing their wildest sides. Takashi and Rei then found a bridge filled with cars stuck in traffic and hordes of zombies ready to attack. Thinking quickly, Takashi chose to find another route. On the bridge, police were trying their best to hold back the zombies, even setting up checkpoints to make sure no one crossed without inspection. But there was a group of reckless teens who insisted on crossing the barricade, forcing the police to shoot water cannons at them. In the SUV, Shido used the opportunity to influence his sympathizers and tried to turn them against Takashi and Rei. The main group started to worry about how much sway Shido had over some girls with family issues. Siko then suggested it might be better if they left the bus and continued on foot to meet up with Takashi sooner, making Takagi a bit jealous. As the conversation continued, Siko mentioned that her family, especially her father, was overseas. This sparked a discussion among the team members, each sharing stories about their families, creating a moment of togetherness amid the chaos. When they finally reached the Anbetsu Bridge, Shido tried to position himself as the main figure in the group. Takagi, who couldn't stand Shido's style, immediately mocked him, saying they were free to leave anytime, except for Dr. Shizuka, whom they deemed essential for their survival. Hirano, unable to hold back, pointed a nail gun at Shido as a warning to back off, reminding Shido of all the insults he had thrown. Hirano emphasized that he had held back all this time to fit in, but now, in a world filled with zombies, he was free to do whatever he wanted, even embrace his wild side. Hirano's boldness not only impressed Siko but also eased the tension in the SUV, leaving Shido feeling embarrassed. Meanwhile, Takashi and Rei struggled to find an escape route as the other bridges were in similar conditions. However, they heard the sound of nail gun shots, realizing that Hirano and his team were fighting off zombies on the bridge. Relying on his gamer instincts, Takashi decided to pull off a GTA-style jump with their vehicle to land directly on the bridge. Upon arrival, Rei quickly rushed to help the girls, while Takashi handed his revolver to Hirano so he could take out the remaining zombies. Once the bridge was cleared of zombies, the two teams finally reunited and started discussing their situation. It turned out that all exits from the city were completely blocked, leaving them in a thrilling deadlock. After considering the idea of crossing the river by swimming, they ultimately decided it was too risky due to the high water levels. Shizuka took charge and suggested a nearby place to stay for the night. When they curiously asked if it belonged to her boyfriend, Shizuka quickly denied it, explaining that it was her female friend's house. She added that her friend was often busy with work, rarely using the place, and had given Shizuka a spare key to keep it maintained. Since Shizuka had described the place so nicely, Takashi invited her for a walk around the area. When they arrived, the girls headed straight to the bathroom, enjoying a relaxing shower after a tension-filled day. Meanwhile, Takashi and Hirano started exploring the lockers in the place and found stacks of advanced weapons and neatly organized ammunition. Hirano was really excited to find heavy-duty rifles and deadly shotguns among the collection of weapons, making them wonder who Shizuka's friend really was. Takashi hoped he wouldn't have to use these weapons on anyone, but Hirano looked eager to use them on zombies for practice. As they were loading the weapons, Hirano shared that he had been to America and received firearms training from an expert who used to work for a private military company. Their conversation continued about how illegal it was to own such weapons in their country, which further fueled their suspicion that Shizuka's friend might be someone high up. Additionally, this place felt too luxurious for the salary of a regular female police officer. This added to their belief that Shizuka's friend was someone with significant connections.